While I was lying beneath a client's truck, adjusting the exhaust at our family-owned shop, my brother Mike walked in, completely unaware I was underneath, and started talking to a friend about how he deserved full ownership of the business because I was just the help. His friend Greg inquired if he'd informed him about selling the establishment yet. Mike chuckled. No way. I'll secure the transaction first, then pocket 80% and vanish. He's too timid to retaliate. Fury consumed me, but I completed the spray booth without uttering a sound. 5 days later, he'd rue every arrogant word he'd uttered. I'm pouring out my feelings on Reddit because I have nowhere else to turn. 7 years of trust were just incinerated, and I'm still suffocating on the fumes. I'm 32, a mechanic with engine grease beneath my fingernails since childhood, and my older sibling, Mike, 36, has been my constant support since our father passed away a decade ago. We'd always been close, or so I believed. 3 years prior, we pooled our resources and acquired this dilapidated auto repair shop, a grimy place with potential I've been tirelessly working to restore. It's my creation, my sanctuary. I repair vehicles, Mike handles the finances. A 50-50 split, that was the agreement, or it used to be. Lately, he's been acting strangely, distant, constantly on his phone, retreating into the office for hushed conversations. I attributed it to his messy divorce from Lisa last year. He's been off ever since. I've been dedicating myself to finishing a new spray booth for the shop. Mike repeatedly said it would attract significant jobs, setting us up for the long term. I even dipped into my personal savings to cover parts when he claimed we lacked funds. Foolish me, I thought we were building a legacy together, something to depend on. I imagined the shop was like us, unrefined but fundamentally sound. Last week, I was beneath a client's truck, struggling with a stubborn exhaust pipe, when everything I believed about kinship disintegrated. Mike didn't realize I was there, concealed under that chassis, and his words struck me like a blow to the chest. 7 years of camaraderie, late nights fixing cars, beers after closing, promises we'd always support each other, and now I'm surveying the wreckage, wondering how I overlooked the fissures. I constructed this place with my hands, my effort, my aspirations, and he's about to tear it all away. I'm still reeling, but I must unburden myself. I was halfway under that worn-out F-150, the kind of task that makes your arms ache and your shirt cling to your back, when the shop door creaked open. It was late, the sun descending, casting elongated shadows across the concrete floor. I'd been at it for hours, adjusting the exhaust to achieve that deep rumble for a particular client. My tools were scattered around me, a socket wrench in my grip, when I heard footsteps and voices. Mike's low murmur, unmistakable, paired with Greg's nasal drawl, some real estate broker he'd been associating with recently. I started to shout a greeting, but Greg's words hit me like a crowbar to the skull. You told him you're selling the shop yet? My chest tightened, the air escaped me. I froze, the wrench trembling in my hand, as Mike let out a laugh that wasn't his, sharp, grating, nothing like the brother I knew. No way, he said, as casually as if ordering food. I need to finalize the deal first, then take my share and bail. He's too preoccupied with tinkering to notice. My mind raced to comprehend. Selling the shop? Our shop? The one I'd poured my heart into, every late night, every bruised knuckle, every dollar I'd accumulated. Greg chuckled, inquiring about the figures, and Mike detailed it. Some corporation wanted to acquire us for double what we paid, $120,000. But he wasn't dividing it evenly. 80% mine, he stated. I've been manipulating the accounts for months, minor transfers, fabricated expenses. He won't see it coming. My blood turned to ice, then boiled over. He'd been stealing from me, from us, right under my nose. I remained still, pinned under that truck like a trapped creature, barely breathing, as Greg pressed further. What if he discovers it? Fights back? Mike scoffed, his words cutting deeper than the betrayal itself. Him? He's predictable, too soft. He'll be upset, certainly, but he won't do anything. Just sulk in his grease pit. That's when it struck me forcefully, not just the money or the shop, but how he perceived me, a dupe, A pushover, not even worth a fair confrontation. 7 years of supporting him through Dad's funeral, his divorce, every single crisis, and he was discarding me like a stripped bolt. They continued conversing, planning timelines, Greg mentioning a meeting next week to sign documents. My knuckles whitened around the wrench, every word fueling a fire in my stomach I hadn't known I possessed. They moved towards the office, their voices fading, and I just lay there, staring at the undercarriage, my sanctuary transforming into a battleground. When the door clicked shut behind them, I slid out, legs trembling, hands slick with perspiration and grime. The shop smelled the same, oil, metal, rubber, but it felt alien now, contaminated. I wanted to storm in, shove Mike against the wall, demand explanations. Why, how could he? But something restrained me, some primal instinct whispering to delay, to listen, to learn more. I wiped my hands on my jeans, smearing black streaks, and stood there, chest heaving. The spray booth loomed in the corner, half-finished, mocking me with its promise of a future he was about to snatch away. I didn't confront him then, didn't smash the wrench through a windshield as my fists yearned to. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and slipped out the back, the evening air biting my face. My truck roared to life, and I drove aimlessly, my mind racing faster than the engine. He thought I was oblivious, too engrossed in my work to perceive the blade he was sharpening. Fine, let him believe that. I'd spent years repairing what was broken, cars, certainly, but also us, after every dispute, every disagreement. This time, however, he'd misjudged me. That rage bubbling up wasn't just hurt, it was fuel. I'd built this place for nothing, and I'd be damned if he demolished it without a struggle. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the shock was solidifying into something else, determination. I didn't know how yet, but I'd make him regret every word I'd overheard under that truck. He'd soon discover I wasn't the docile younger brother he thought he could exploit. The next morning, I returned to the shop as if nothing had occurred, toolbox in hand, jaw clenched tightly. The air still reeked of oil and treachery, but I had a task to perform, both on the vehicles and on Mike. He was already there, leaning against the counter with a coffee mug, scrolling on his phone like some monarch of the domain. "Morning, bro," he said, flashing that effortless smile I used to trust. "Spray booth's looking good. You're crushing it." Every syllable grated like grit in an engine block, but I forced a nod and a thank you. I couldn't reveal my hand, not yet. So I grabbed a torque wrench and immersed myself in a brake job, allowing the rhythm of the work to steady my pulse. Each turn of the bolt was a silent pledge he'd pay for this. By noon, I was wiring the booth's exhaust fan, sweat beading on my forehead, when Mike strolled over, all chummy. "Gonna be a game-changer, this thing," he said, patting my shoulder. His touch stung, but I kept my expression neutral, muttering something about airflow specifications. Inside, I seethed. He was already calculating the money he intended to steal, while I got cheated. That night, after he locked up, I stayed late under the pretext of finishing a tune-up. The shop was quiet, just me and the hum of the fluorescent lights. I powered up our shared laptop. His password was still Dad 1965. The arrogant fool. I delved into the files. There it was, invoices for parts we never acquired, payments to consultants I'd never encountered, and a trail of transfers to an account bearing his initials, thousands gone, siphoned slowly enough that I hadn't noticed. Then the real shocker. Loan documents with my name forged, tying me to $25,000 in debt I hadn't authorized. My stomach churned. This wasn't just larceny, it was a scheme to ruin me. The following day, he called while I was elbow-deep in a carburetor overhaul. "Hey man, can you take an extra shift tonight? Cash flow's tight, need to keep the lights on." His voice was smooth, practiced, but I now detected the falsehood. He wasn't broke. He was draining me to fund his escape. I wanted to smash the phone, tell him I knew every deceitful trick he was employing, but I swallowed it. "Sure, no problem," I said, my voice flat. He thanked me, all cheerful, and hung up. I slammed a fist into the workbench, tools rattling, then returned to work. The extra hours were a gift he'd given me, more time to plan. Every lug nut I tightened felt like securing my resolve. Every spark from the welder was a burst of rage I'd use against him. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on an old stool by the spray booth, staring at its half-finished structure. This place was supposed to be ours, our chance at something genuine after years of struggling. Now it was a stage for his deception. I pulled out my phone and messaged Jake, my oldest friend from the trade, the guy who'd rescued me from more than one predicament. Emergency. Mike screwing me over. Selling the shop, stealing cash, pinning loans on me. Meet tomorrow noon. Can't do this alone. My thumb hovered over send, my chest tight with the burden of admitting it aloud. Then I hit it. Jake's reply pinged back in seconds. Lunch. Diner on 5th. I'm there. Relief flickered, small but tangible. I had an ally. I locked up, the click of the deadbolt echoing in the empty garage. Driving home, I kept replaying Mike's words from under that truck. Too soft, won't do anything. He thought he had me figured out, thought I'd capitulate as always, cleaning up his messes while he advanced over my back. Not this time. I'd spent years mending us after Dad, after Lisa, after every argument where I'd been the one to yield. But this wasn't a flat tire or a blown gasket. This was him gutting me, and I wasn't about to let him drive off with the keys. The shop's neon sign faded in my rearview mirror, and I gripped the wheel harder. Tomorrow, I'd start constructing something new, not just a booth, but a strategy to overturn his game. He'd soon encounter the brother he'd underestimated, and I'd ensure it hurt worse than any debt he'd saddled me with. For now, I'd play the role, grease-stained, quiet, predictable, until the opportune moment to strike. I met Jake at the diner on 5th, the one with the cracked vinyl seats, and coffee that tasted like engine oil. It was noon, and the place hummed with truck drivers and regulars, but all I could hear was the blood throbbing in my ears. Jake slid into the seat opposite me, his buzz-cut and grease-stained jacket mirroring my own. "Spill it," he said without preamble. I recounted everything. Mike's scheme to sell the shop, the 80-20 split, the siphoned cash, the fabricated loans pinning me for $25,000. Jake's jaw tightened with every word, and when I finished, he leaned forward, his voice low. "He's counting on you being a pushover, thinks you'll just accept it. You don't. You retaliate, fiercely and discreetly. He's family, but he's playing dirty." I nodded, the fire in my gut flaring brighter. We sketched a plan on a napkin: secure my finances, gather evidence, consult a lawyer, keep him unaware. "Surprise is your trump card," Jake stated. Back at the shop that afternoon, I performed my part, head down, soldering wires for the spray booth's control panel. Mike poked his head in, all friendly. "How's my favorite gearhead? Booth's going to bring in some serious money." I forced a grin, muttering about voltage checks, while inside I seethed. He was already tallying the cash he planned to steal. That night, alone in the garage, I made my moves. I logged into our joint business account, still had access, thankfully, and saw $36,000 sitting there, half of it rightfully mine. I'd opened a new account at a different bank, transferred my $18,000 cleanly, then froze our shared credit line. He'd eventually notice, but not before I was prepared. Every click of the mouse felt like tightening a vice on his scheme. The next day, a client, a grizzled biker named Tony, arrived for an oil change, grumbling at me. "Heard you've been flaking on jobs," he said, eyeing me sharply. "Mike told me you're too swamped to keep up." My gut twisted. Another layer of Mike's game. He'd been bad-mouthing me to customers, diverting work to a side hustle he ran with Greg from a rented bay across town. My name, my reputation, built over years of 3 a.m. oil spills and precise repairs, was being dragged through the mud for his profit. I suppressed the urge to reveal everything, just offered a tight smile and said, "Must have been a misunderstanding. I've got you covered." Tony grunted, appeased, but the sting lingered. I channeled it into the booth, installing the sprayer with a focus that prevented me from punching a wall. Later, under the flicker of the shop's overhead lights, I prepared the final piece of my counter-strike. I'd recorded Mike on my phone the day before. He'd been boasting to Greg in the office about eliminating dead weight, while I pretended to be out back. Now I copied that audio, plus screenshots of his fake invoices and bank transfers, onto a USB drive. I climbed a ladder, opened the booth's vent, and tucked the drive inside, securing it with duct tape. It was my ace in the hole, proof he couldn't touch unless he dismantled the entire place. I stepped back, hands on my hips, staring at the booth. It gleamed, almost perfect, a testament to my skill and soon to his downfall. Mike wanted a game-changer. I'd give him one he'd never anticipate. Driving home, I sensed a shift, not peace, not yet, but a grim satisfaction. Jake's words echoed. Hit back quiet. I was doing it, step by step, turning Mike's own tactics against him. He'd spent years relying on me, my work, my loyalty, thinking I'd never resist. But I wasn't just some wrench monkey anymore. I was a man with a strategy, and every nut I tightened today was a piece of it falling into place. The shop was still half mine, legally and morally, and I'd fight tooth and nail to retain it. Mike's smug face flashed in my mind, him patting my shoulder, calling me bro, as if it meant something. It used to. Now it was just noise. Tomorrow, I'd continue building, both the booth and my exit plan, until he realized the soft younger brother he counted on yielding had a backbone of steel and a fist full of evidence. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Friday morning hit like a hangover without the alcohol. I was tightening the last bolts on the spray booth's frame when the shop phone rang. It was our main supplier, Ray, his voice as rough as sandpaper. Payment's late again. Mike said you dropped the ball. Third time this month. We're done till you square up. I stood there, the wrench slipping in my sweaty hand, as he hung up. Late? I'd handed Mike the check myself 2 weeks ago, watched him tuck it into his pocket with a nod. The truth hit me. He'd pocketed it, let the bill lapse, and blamed me. Clients were already dwindling. 2 canceled that day, muttering about unreliable service. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. He wasn't just stealing cash. He was severing the shop's lifeline, making it a shell he could sell cheaply and quickly. I wanted to ram that wrench through his office door, but I inhaled deeply, set it down, and kept working. Rage wouldn't resolve this, not yet. That afternoon, I caught a break, or so I thought. A slow hour allowed me to sneak back to the laptop while Mike was out running errands. I probed his email, my heart pounding like a piston, and found a thread with Greg titled, Tax Cleanup. Mike wrote, If the sale drags, we pin the books on him. Say he fudged the numbers. IRS won't care who's holding the wrench. My breath hitched. Tax fraud? He was setting me up for a federal downfall, penalties, maybe jail, while he absconded with the payout. This wasn't merely betrayal. It was a calculated blow, using my name like a shield to evade his own mess. I leaned back, staring at the screen, the shop's hum fading to white noise. 7 years of supporting him through life, Dad's death, his divorce, and he'd repay me with a prison cell. The wound tore wider, raw and bleeding. I couldn't remain still after that. I grabbed a carburetor off the bench and tore into it, my hands moving on autopilot, cleaning jets, replacing gaskets, anything to keep my head from exploding. Around dusk, Mike rolled in, tossing me a beer as if we were still brothers. Big weekend ahead, huh? Let's crack these open Sunday. Toast the booth. His grin was all teeth, no soul, and I nearly lost it, nearly threw that can at his head and watched it burst. Instead, I popped the tab, took a swig, and said, Sounds good. The words tasted like ash, but I held his gaze steady as steel. He rambled about some new client, oblivious, while I nodded, plotting. Sunday wouldn't be his celebration, it would be mine. Late that night, I called the lawyer Jake had connected me with. Her name was Carla, her voice crisp over the line. I detailed the loans, the supplier evasion, the tax fraud scheme, everything I'd uncovered. She didn't flinch. He's overreached, she said. Those forged signatures and emails? Gold mine. We can tie him up legally while you retain the shop. Get me hard copies by Monday. I hung up, a flicker of hope cutting through the darkness. Carla was right. Mike thought he'd stacked the deck, but he'd left openings I could exploit. I leaned against the booth, its sleek lines gleaming under the lights, and felt a twisted pride. He'd transformed my work into a weapon against me, but I'd turn it right back. Driving home, the road blurred, not from tears but from exhaustion and fury. Mike's actions weren't random. He was dismantling me piece by piece, betting I'd collapse under the weight. The supplier trick cost me trust. The tax frame could cost me freedom. But I wasn't crumbling. Every setback he'd inflicted on my life was a mark I'd reshape, stronger than before. Sunday loomed like a storm cloud, and I'd be prepared, not just to endure, but to strike. He'd constructed this trap, believing I'd remain the younger brother who fixed his messes. He was mistaken. I'd fix this one too, but this time, it would be for me. Sunday morning, the shop was silent, the spray booth shining like a trophy under the dawn light. I'd barely slept, but my hands were steady as I set my phone to record and slipped it into my pocket. Mike arrived at 10 with Greg, both swaggering in as if they owned the place, ready to celebrate. "Bro!" Mike called, tossing me a smirk. I forced a grin and motioned them over. "Got something special first," I said, my voice calm as I hit play. The audio crackled, Mike's voice clear as day. "Selling the shop, taking 80%. He won't do anything." Their faces froze, Greg stuttering, Mike's eyes narrowing. I didn't flinch. "That's just the beginning. Loans in my name, stolen cash, supplier lies, tax fraud setup. I've got it all. Lawyers filing tomorrow." Mike lunged, yelling I'd betrayed him, rich coming from the person who'd stabbed me in the back. I held up a hand. "Half the savings moved, credit line frozen, shop mine too. Oh, and there's more proof hidden in that booth. Good luck finding it." Greg bolted for the door. Mike stood, fists clenched, then deflated, muttering threats about lawyers. I shrugged. "Go for it. I've got the originals." I grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving him with a gleaming cage he couldn't sell without me. By dusk, I was at Jake's, resting on his couch with a beer he'd handed me. No words, just a nod and silence. I needed it. Monday, Carla filed the documents. By Tuesday, Mike's text swung from pleading to cursing. I didn't respond. A week later, the "shop for sale" sign went up. He was cutting his losses, but I'd already salvaged my share. I moved into a small apartment near a new job, working on cars again, building something honest. The booth's still there, my USB ticking like a bomb he'd never disarm. Every time he sees it, he'll wonder, and that's sufficient. It's been a month. Some days the ache of 7 years hits, Mike's laughter, our old conversations, but it's fading. I'm not the kid who fixed his messes anymore. I drove by the shop yesterday, saw it empty, and felt liberated. He underestimated me, and I turned it against him. Now I'm starting fresh, from the ground up, on my own terms. Thank you for watching the video. If this narrative resonated with you, please share your thoughts below. Your appreciation may seem minor, but it provides me with the motivation to continue creating every single day. See you in the next video.